Hello, you're listening to Midnight Whisper, a gentle, safe space to unwind. Settle in if you like, or stay just as you are. Let the words flow gently into the background and ease into the quiet. The horse who chose the long road. Long ago, in a valley where rice fields shone like mirrors, there was a small village beside a wide river. The village was not rich, but it was peaceful. In spring, the air smelled of wet soil and new leaves. In summer, the cicadas sang all day. In autumn, the wind carried the scent of drying grain. And in winter, smoke rose gently from every rooftop. The villagers lived by the rhythm of the seasons, and they worked hard. At the edge of the village, there was a simple farm. On this farm lived a young horse. He was not a grand horse from the palace, and he was not a wild horse from the mountains. He was only a farm horse. His coat was the colour of warm earth. His mane was dark and soft, and his eyes were calm. The villagers called him Little Horse, not because he was weak, but because he was still young. Each morning, the farmer would harness Little Horse to a wooden cart. The cart carried sacks of rice, bundles of firewood, clay pots, and sometimes tired children who had fallen asleep after playing. Little Horse pulled the cart without complaint. His hooves pressed into the dirt roads. His breath rose in slow clouds when the air was cold. And his steady footsteps became part of the village's daily sound. Now outside the village, there was two roads. One was called the short road. It cut through the forest. It was narrow, it was steep, and it had many stones. But if you took the short road, you could not reach the market quickly. The other was called the long road. It curved around the hills. It passed through open fields and slopes. It had fewer stones, and the wind moved freely there. But it took much longer. One day the farmer said to the little horse, "Today we must go to the market early. We will take the short road." And so Little Horse began to pull the cart toward the forest. The forest was quiet. Tall trees stood close together, like an old crowd that did not move. The sunlight did not reach the ground easily. The road was cold, even at midday, and the stones were sharp. Little Horse walked carefully, step by step, but the cart was heavy, and soon the wheels struck a stone. The cart tilted. A sack of rice slid sideways. The farmer caught it just in time, but the rope snapped. Rice spilled onto the ground like pale rain. The farmer sighed. He was not angry. He simply looked tired. He gathered the rice slowly. He tied the rope again, and he patted Little Horse's neck. "It's not your fault," he said. "The road is not kind." The little horse stood still. His ears turned toward the farmer's voice, and he breathed softly. They continued, but the road became steeper. The trees became thicker, and the stones became larger. At one point, the cartwheel sank into a muddy hollow. Little Horse pulled. The cart did not move. He pulled again, The cart groaned, but stayed. The father stepped behind the cart and pushed. His boots slipped into the mud. For a long moment, nothing moved, only the sound of little horses breathing. Slow, deep, steady. Then, at last, the wheel lifted. The cart rolled forward, and they escaped the mud. By the time they reached the market, the sun was already high. They were not early. They were not fast. They were only tired. Last night, when they returned home, the farmer fed Little Horse extra hay. He brushed his coat until it shone softly, and he said, "Tomorrow we will take the long road." The next morning they set out again. This time they went around the hills. The long road was wide. The sky felt larger there. The fields stretched open like a calm sea. The cartwheels rolled smoothly. Little Horse walked at an easy pace, not fast, but steady. Along the way, they passed a small stream. The water was clear. The farmer stopped and let Little Horse drink. Little Horse lowered his head and he drank slowly, and the water made a quiet sound, like a gentle song. They continued. The road curved gently, and as the sun moved across the sky, the air grew warm. The farmer began to hum softly, not because he was trying to entertain anyone, but because his heart felt lighter. They reached the market, not early, not late, just on time. And something else was different. The sacks of rice were still tied firmly. No rope had snapped. No rice had spilled. The cartwheels were clean. Little Horse's legs did not tremble. His breath was calm. He looked as if he could walk the road again. The farmer looked at him and smiled. He said, "This road is longer, but it does not steal our strength." Days passed, then weeks, and soon the farmer stopped taking the short road entirely. He always chose the long road. Some villagers noticed. They said, "Why do you waste time? The short road is faster." But the farmer only replied, "The long road brings me home safely." As time went on, more people began to follow. A mother carrying vegetables, a grandfather pulling a cart of firewood, a young boy delivering letters. They all began to take the long road. At first, they did it because they saw the farmer doing it, but later, they did it because they felt the difference in their own bodies. Their backs hurt less, their hands shook less, their tempers were calmer when they reached home. And slowly, the long road became something else. It became a road people trusted, a road people shared, a road where travellers greeted each other kindly, a road where you could walk and still have enough energy to smile. One evening, after a long day, the farmer and the little horse were returning home. The sky was pale gold. The wind moved through the fields, and the village lights appeared ahead, small and warm. The farmer looked down at Little Horse. He said quietly, "You know, when I was young, I thought you would become faster, stronger, more impressive. He paused. Then he said, "But now I understand. You were never meant to be fast. You were meant to be steady." Little Horse did not answer. Horses do not speak. But he took one calm step, then another, and the cart rolled smoothly behind him. That night, the farmer told the story to his family, and the family told it to their neighbours, and the neighbours told it to their children, and so the story was passed down, not as a story about speed, not as a story about victory, but as a story about wisdom. Because in life, there are always two roads. The short road is tempting. It promises quick results. It tells you, hurry, push harder, don't stop. But the longer road is quieter. It does not promise anything exciting. It simply asks, can you keep going without breaking yourself? And the old folks' saying from the valleys was this: a horse who chooses the long road will still have strength when spring returns.